The city square buzzed with life. Couples strolled hand in hand, children tugged at balloons, and businessmen hurried across the plaza with phones glued to their ears. And then there was her, a girl no older than 17, hair messy, clothes worn thin, holding a small cardboard sign that read, "Can I play for food?" Some people laughed. Others shook their heads and muttered, "Another scam." But none of them knew what was about to happen. Within minutes, this homeless girl would silence the crowd, move them to tears, and change lives in ways no one saw coming. Chapter 1, The Girl in the Shadows. Her name was Lila. At first glance, she looked like just another face lost in hardship, skinny frame, dirt-stained jeans, sneakers with holes. But her eyes told another story, a quiet fire, a deep longing to be seen, not pitied. Lila hadn't always lived this way. Just a year ago, she had a warm home, a small family, and dreams of becoming a pianist. Her father, a truck driver, often told her, "Music is the language of the soul, Lila. When you play, you let people hear your heart." But tragedy struck fast. A car accident stole her father's life. Her mother, battling depression and illness, couldn't hold the family together. Soon, rent went unpaid. Bills piled up. By the time Lila turned 17, she was alone on the streets, with nothing but a worn-out backpack and a small keyboard she had saved from being sold. Chapter 2, The Plaza. The plaza was her stage now. Every day, she sat at the far corner where tourists gathered, pulling her keyboard from its case. But people rarely stopped. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low and golden rays painted the square, Lila held up her cardboard sign. "Can I play for food?" A group of college students passed by. One laughed and said loudly, "Sure, play us something. Let's see if you're worth a sandwich." Another chimed in, "Bet she can't even play. Probably just wants cash for junk." Lila's hands trembled. The sting of humiliation pressed against her chest. She could have walked away. She could have curled into herself like so many other times. But instead, she closed her eyes and whispered the words her father once told her. "Let them hear your heart." Chapter 3, The First Note. Her fingers found the keys. At first, the sound was soft, almost fragile, like a secret carried by the wind. But then it grew, filling the plaza with a melody that was raw, haunting, and impossibly beautiful. The crowd stilled. Conversations died mid-sentence. Even the students who mocked her fell silent, jaws slack. Lila wasn't just playing notes. She was telling a story. Through the music, she poured out the pain of losing her father, the nights spent sleeping under bridges, the hunger gnawing at her stomach, and yet, somehow, there was hope threaded through every chord. Tears welled in the eyes of strangers. A mother held her child closer. An old man closed his eyes, as if remembering someone he had lost. By the time Lila's last note hung in the air, the plaza was silent. Then, applause erupted. Not polite clapping, but thunderous, heartfelt applause that echoed against the buildings. Chapter 4, The Stranger. Among the crowd stood a woman in her 40s, elegant yet warm. Her name was Elena Morales, a well-known music teacher in the city. She had been on her way to meet a student when she heard the music. Something about Lila's playing struck her deeply. It wasn't just talent, it was truth. As the crowd dropped coins and bills into Lila's small open case, Elena approached quietly. "You play with your soul," she said gently. Lila looked up, unsure if she should respond. Compliments usually came with pity, and pity she could not bear. "I'm not looking for handouts," Lila whispered. "Just enough to eat." Elena smiled softly. "I don't want to give you a handout. I want to give you an opportunity." Chapter 5, The Offer. Over coffee and sandwiches, the first real meal Lila had eaten in days, Elena asked about her story. Slowly, Lila opened up. She spoke of her father's death, her mother's struggles, her love for music, and the loneliness of surviving on the streets. Elena listened without interruption, her heart breaking. Then she said words Lila never expected to hear. "Lila, I run a small music academy. I'd like you to study there. For free. And not just study, you have the gift to perform. I'll help you." Lila froze, sandwich halfway to her lips. No one had ever offered her more than spare change. "But I don't have clothes, or a home," she murmured. Elena reached across the table. "We'll figure it out. What matters is your talent, and the world needs to hear it." Chapter 6, The Journey. The weeks that followed were not easy. Lila moved into a small guest room in Elena's home. For the first time in months, she had a bed, warmth, and safety. But with that safety came fear, fear of failing, fear of not belonging. At the academy, some students whispered behind her back. "She's homeless. She doesn't belong here." The same voices that once mocked her still echoed, only in different faces. But every night, Lila practiced until her fingers ached. She studied music theory, listened to great pianists, and let her pain fuel her art. Slowly, her confidence grew. Chapter 7, The Concert. 6 months later, Elena surprised Lila with news. "There's a charity concert next month. I want you to perform." Lila's stomach dropped. Perform? On stage? In front of hundreds? Elena squeezed her hand. "Remember what your father said, let them hear your heart." The night of the concert arrived. The grand hall glittered with chandeliers, filled with an audience dressed in suits and gowns. Lila stood backstage, palms sweating, her old sneakers peeking from under the long borrowed dress Elena had given her. When her name was announced, whispers rippled through the crowd. Some recognized her as the girl from the plaza. Others raised eyebrows at the idea of a homeless pianist. She sat at the piano. Her hands hovered above the keys. For a moment, doubt threatened to swallow her whole. Then she remembered her father's smile, her mother's laughter, and the kindness Elena had shown. And she played. This time, the music wasn't just pain, it was triumph. It was survival. It was proof that even from the darkest places, beauty can rise. When the last note faded, the hall erupted in a standing ovation. People cheered, tears streaming down their faces. The same voices that once mocked her now shouted her name. Chapter 8, The Transformation. News of Lila's performance spread quickly. Local papers called her the girl who played her way out of the streets. Interviews followed. Invitations to perform at bigger venues poured in. But through it all, Lila stayed grounded. She remembered the nights she went to sleep hungry, the humiliation of being mocked, the kindness of one stranger who believed in her. With her earnings, she didn't buy luxury. She set up a small foundation with Elena, dedicated to teaching music to underprivileged kids. She wanted every child with a dream to know they had a chance. Chapter 9, The Reunion. 1 year after the concert, as Lila prepared for her biggest performance yet, a frail woman appeared at the back of the academy. Lila? It was her mother. Tears blurred Lila's vision as she ran into her arms. Her mother, now in recovery, whispered, "I'm so proud of you." That night, Lila played not just for herself, but for her father, her mother, for Elena, and for every child who ever held a dream too heavy for their small shoulders. The final message. From a homeless girl mocked in the streets to a celebrated pianist changing lives, Lila's story became a beacon of hope. Because sometimes, the world only sees a sign that says, "Can I play for food?" But behind it is a soul waiting to be heard. And when you listen, truly listen, you might just find yourself in tears. Word count, 2 170 white heavy check mark.